Welcome to the Connect or Die podcast. Wow, we are killing it. No, I'm just kidding. We're doing good though. I'm proud of us.
We're being consistent.
Yeah, we said we would be, and we are.
Hashtag coronavirus.
Yeah. Hashtag nothing better to do. No,
That's just the way it goes.
no, but we're super excited to be here. I'm excited to talk with Logan, and once again, we're excited for you guys to be a part of some of the conversations that we have. Now, today we are going to be talking about a very there's no better way to put it. It's a very dark subject. It's one we're going to be talking about some of the things that are happening and oh man,
Kind of just our takes on it, because it's out there and people are talking about it. And, I don't want to take people down rabbit holes, and I think that would be the trigger warning that I would. This stuff. If you go down this path and you look at some of these things, it's going to bring up a lot of dark stories. You're gonna run into some subject matters that maybe you're not ready for, and that's okay. My caution for everyone, and this is what I did personally, like when I started diving into some of this stuff, is I just recognized what was too much. I'm prone to anxiety, and so if I try to take on the weight of the world, I'm gonna get crushed. Like, I will get crushed by it, and that doesn't help anyone.
Right.
Don't get crushed by what's going on in the world. Be informed about things, but connect with yourself and know what might be too much for you. Too much information. And that's the other thing I was going to say is, like, I these days, because we were just talking, I was asking Dave if he knew what corona meant. One day I looked it up. And I've gotten to this point where I'm like, whenever I look something up on the internet and I get information back, I don't even know if that information is accurate.
Right.
During our coronavirus episode a few weeks ago, I said something that was wrong because I read it on the internet. I said, if you want to know if you have coronavirus or not, take a deep breath in, hold it for 10 seconds. And if you can do it and it's not painful, then you don't have the corona. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's complete bullshit. Like, I've since read other things and it is utter bullshit. But so you just have to be careful. With regards to anything you read on the internet, you just have to be careful. But I was telling Dave anyway, the corona, based on what I read, and it could be wrong, but I think it's accurate, is corona is the little bit of light that you can see around the sun when it is during an eclipse. Is that how you understand it, Dave?
I have no idea. I haven't looked it up.
Okay, well that's kind of what I read. Yeah. That could be wrong. But I think it's super pertinent for what is going on.
Yeah.
Because if you look on the internet, if you look on social media, there's so much darkness. There really is. And today we're going to be talking about darkness that is coming to light to a certain extent,
right,
with some of the coronavirus stuff that's going on. And I don't know if these things are linked. We have no idea, but this stuff is weird and there's strange things going on. But I would just, from my own personal experience, focus on the light.
Yeah.
Focus on the light. However little it is, just know the sun is behind that.
Yeah.
Even though there's darkness right now and it's so hard to see the light, it's there. Look at that corona. Look at the corona and know that light is there. This will pass.
Yeah.
This will pass, and there will be more light. And you begin to understand that if you can tap into that, there's light right now. I know I'm talking a lot, but sorry. I just one day.
Go ahead, please.
Something I saw on social media that I was like, wow, this is truth, and I can connect to it. Someone posted a video outside their window in New York at around 7:00 at night, and the entire city was just clapping for the essential workers.
Yeah.
And it's we haven't seen that type of unity in this country since 9/11.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, guess which generation was born at 9/11?
Yeah.
The kids who can't have their graduation parties.
Right.
because of coronavirus. And so like I'm not saying all these things are connected, but I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so there's so much light out there. There really truly is. There are people who are displaying humanity and honesty and compassion and just truth. Like I was going to say Jesus, because that's kind
Yeah.
of becoming that paradigm's starting to creep its way back in. Dave, I blame you for that. And a little bit Bob
Yeah.
Goff. Like I
Yeah.
blame Bob Goff for but yeah, I just see so much Christ like characteristics just all over the place. And so, if it takes something dark like this for some of that light to be more clear, because we're
Yeah.
all searching for it, whatever, like
Yeah.
if this is what it takes for us to all wake up and be more present, awesome. Okay, use
Yeah.
it for that. Like
Yeah.
anyway, that's just it.
No, and
I'll stop.
I do think about this opportunity that we have at this time where most people are at home with their families and having more time than they've ever had to be with them. And as that happens, people get less angry at their neighbor for having a different political belief. Like
certain
all
people
of a
certain
sudden,
people
yeah,
certain people
I
get
think,
like
yeah,
certain people get more angry, and that's kind
right,
of what we're going to talk about a
right,
little bit.
right, right. It can go either way for sure. Um, but well, I think it's like anything else. I think
Right.
that, like, for example, it was kind of interesting. I was talking to somebody and they're like, man, I think that money just corrupts people. And I'm like, no, I think that money reveals who you are. If you've got $1 billion and you're going to, like, then you're not going to be subject to social pressure at all. So who are you?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's where
Hashtag R. Kelly.
yeah, hashtag R. Kelly. We're going to be getting into him as well as many of these others. I'll pull up some quotes while we're talking too.
Right.
Um,
But no, you're absolutely. I've heard it said that money just expands who you are. Money multiplies who you are. Money takes who you.
Natalie's bringing me some coffee.
Oh,
Thank you,
nice.
my dear. Appreciate that.
I've got mine as well
Oh,
in
that's
my Star Wars mug.
yeah.
The lightsabers are supposed to light up, but it's gotten cold now.
Ah, I see. That's awesome. Here, I'll show you mine.
Dude, I need to stop touching my face so much. Like I've heard that that's what you. Oh, happy damn. Is that referring to the gospel song?
I don't
Oh,
know.
happy day.
I don't know, but that's it should. It should be.
I love that song. It's a good song. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think it's easy, and I feel like people use that as a cop out for why they don't have very much money. They're
Right.
like, oh, money's corrupting people. Like
It
that's
will
why I
corrupt.
want it. It's like,
It's like
well,
when
no, if you
yeah,
were a good person and you had a shit ton of money, like that would actually be a good thing. Like it'd
yeah,
be a really good thing. You could do
yeah.
a lot of great things.
Dude, love makes the world go round, but it doesn't build houses. Like,
Doesn't put food on the table.
yeah, money does. Yeah. So it's
I
like,
mean, I guess it could, like someone who loves you could be like, well, you're not making any money, so here I'm going to put some food on your table, but they
but they
had to
still
pay
had to
for
pay,
it.
they had to pay for it. They're
Someone
still,
had to pay for it.
yeah, yeah. Money, I don't know if money is the root of all evil, but I do think that it can show evil. Like,
Oh yeah,
will
right.
it will it's also the root of a lot of good.
Well, so I
Obviously you
mean,
don't have to have a lot of money to do good. That would be a dumb connection to make.
oh yeah, no,
But
not at all.
yeah, but it does reveal, I think it reveals who you are.
But you look at people who like win the lottery, and then like 3 years from then they're like living in poverty again.
Yeah.
And it's like that's who they
It's
were.
actually
Like that's
less than
who.
that. Typically, it's no matter what their winnings are, within 12 months they'll be back to where they were.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's man, crazy times we live in right now. This
I
is
think it's
crazy.
I think it's
But it's
good
like
though to
good. It's good. But this is I've never heard of anything like this, of people staying home and people being committed to each other and saying like, "Hey, like I'm willing to stay home and figure this whole working at home thing so that those at risk in my community won't get sick."
right. Well, there are definitely people, and I've been this way at times. You know,
Yeah.
there have been moments of the libertarian just inside of me that's just like screaming and being like,
Oh,
"Oh, the fact that this is enforced by the state." You know, it.
right.
But I do think that we all share a responsibility to each other. So I think there are people out there that are like, fuck everyone else. Like if they're gonna
Yeah.
die, they're gonna die. Like, I
Right.
mean, the reality is some of the projections of how many people would die from this virus is if it were widespread. It's somewhere like, and again, I could be misquoting. I don't like these
Yeah.
statistics could be meaningless, but I've heard like 2%.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be insensitive at all. I'm just going to say this because this is the reality. More than 2% of the population die every year from other
Right.
things. So like, um, that's just to put it into perspective. I'm not saying that that means we should be out and about, but that's what a lot of people are using as like fuel for the opposite side of this, of like,
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't be going to these extremes. And I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like you said, it's interesting because we're now talking about things that we've never talked about before. And I think that that's beautiful. I think it's
Yeah.
shedding, there's light being shed on things that before were kind of unknown. I was joking with my family the other day. I was saying, I love these times because now with just one question, I can find out everything I need to know about a person. And
Yeah.
that question is, how do you feel about the coronavirus? And they
Yeah.
just go off, and like,
Yeah.
if they're panicked, if they don't care about other people, like it all comes out. It all
Yeah.
comes out, and you can just see people so clearly.
Yeah.
And and it's been the same way for myself. Like it's helped me see myself more clearly,
Yeah.
because like I said, I've had those moments of libertarian rage where I'm just like, fuck everyone else, my personal liberty, my personal freedom.
Right.
And it's like, wow, I'm a selfish like
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
selfish, like. And
Yeah.
so it shed light on that so that I could become aware of it and change it if I want to, or maybe I want to be
Yeah.
selfish, I don't know, it's like,
Yeah.
but I can at least know what the truth is. So
Yeah.
anyway, cool times, like
Dude, this
it's a
is a
cool
cool
side
time.
effect.
Well, and I think that like the fact that we can work and still have entertainment, like could you imagine just being stuck at home? You can't work. You like you can't do anything to have any sort of income, uh, as well as no way to connect to anybody else.
Right. Oh,
You know?
it'd be hell.
Oh, that'd
Well,
be
and
so hard.
my little brother one day, he kind of brought up this point that we're talking about, like the flip side of this terrible thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, think about kids under, I think about my son Ben. He has no
Yeah.
idea what's going on. Like,
Right.
and
Right.
and rightfully so. Like, I think he deserves to be a kid.
Yeah.
And I've noticed he has maybe some tendencies for anxiety like I had when I was his age. And so I don't, I try to be sensitive to that.
Yeah.
But my brother was saying, when kids look back on this time,
Yeah.
they'll just remember school was out. I
Yeah.
got to be home with both my mom and my dad, if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
Um, Movies came out earlier, music came out
Yeah.
earlier. But
Yeah.
the flip side of this, and maybe this is a good segue into what we want to talk about, is not every kid in the world has an ideal situation.
Right.
For some kids, having both their mom and dad home has been a nightmare.
Yeah.
I read something, and I don't know the statistics, that domestic violence cases have increased since people are home more often.
Yeah.
So, it's funny to talk about those things, and those are true for some kids. But the reality is that's not everyone's reality. And there are
Yeah.
dark things that are happening in the world. that this situation is also starting to shed some light on, maybe
Yeah.
shed too much light on, because conspiracy theories are running rampant right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how much
One,
you want to talk about those, but
dude, we can talk. I'm open to talk about anything. I think one
I know
person, if you want to start, if
you've
you want
gone
to,
deep down the rabbit hole.
I have. Yeah. There's one person that I really like to follow. Her name is Coco Birthman. With
Okay.
some of the stuff we're going to be talking about. Um, so something that happens that is, man, this is a tough subject. Okay, trigger warning, all those things, right? This is going to be a very dark subject. We're going to be talking about human trafficking. For those who think that slavery was 200 years ago, slavery is worse than it's ever been. It is far worse than it's ever been. And that is because of this human trafficking that is happening all the time. And specifically with some of these, and this isn't hearsay. This isn't the stuff I'm going to try to stick to today is stuff that is like pretty verifiable. Uh,
Right.
um, and it's pretty terrifying, man. So the way, I guess I'll tell my story on how I was introduced to it. I had someone that came and helped look for my brother when he went missing. It was a ministry, and I began to learn about what they do, and all they do is go and save kids. That's all they do. And the reason that they decided to come help look for my brother is he said, "Hey, I've brought so many of these kids home who don't have a father. Maybe I could bring a father home to their kid." uh, and um, and that's kind of where that was like my first intro into this thing. Since then, I've gone down a very deep rabbit hole. One person I'll kind of focus on probably on Coco today. Coco Birthman is her name, and she is a child trafficking survivor, and she is very open about her story. Um, she lived in the kind of the somewhat upper echelons of the German society, and um, for over 10 years, from the time she was 5 years old until she was 15, when they killed her sister and she ran away and was able to save herself. Um, she was sex trafficked by her mother. Her mother was the one who was setting it up, and both her and her sister, that was happening to them all the time. And when she talks about it, she says, look, like, these aren't, like, you think that this is happening. She's like, but I had it looked like I had a normal life. I was going to school, but they would move me from school to school. She's like, within that 10 years, she went to something like 36 different schools because they don't want, and this is good information. If you see signs like this is something to set off the alarms in your head. First of all, typically they will be branded in some way, and so and this is so that the sex trafficking rings know who that person is, like that person belongs to this trafficking ring. And so sometimes the like little kids will have a tattoo on their finger. You'll see like a little star tattooed on the inside of their finger, or they'll have like a weird looking scar, or they'll have something like that. Um, and if you see signs, it's the same. A lot of them are similar to the signs of child abuse. If you see that they have a mark of a hand around their wrist, that's a good sign of that. If they have extreme anxiety when they go to leave school, that's another sign. If they have a lot of trouble connecting with people while they're in school, that's another sign of it. Like, it's just good to have your eyes open. And I'm certainly no expert on this. I just have done. I like basically like touched it 2 years ago, and then more and more I've learned about it. The more I want to become a part and want to help get rid of this stuff, because it is absolutely evil. We talk about good and evil. We talk about like some of this stuff, and yes, there is levels of gray of good and evil, but there is some white, like perfectly good, and there is some black, perfectly evil things. And this one is evil.
Well, and I think, could I just say real
Yeah,
quick, and I think that that goes without saying, because I've heard that, if anyone who's done crime against children go to prison,
yeah,
they're at high risk, because even criminals have a code.
right.
So I
Yeah,
think that kind of goes to it.
yeah.
Maybe there are criminals who are kind of in that gray
And that
area,
goes
but
that
even
goes a
criminals
long way back. Yeah,
represent, that is bad, like that is
yeah,
terrible, you don't deserve to live, like I've
yeah.
done terrible things, but that is awful.
Well, there was even a Viking king, and this was back in the day. You killed everybody when you would raid a town. There was a Viking king. This is like when this kind of left. This anyway. He changed a lot with the culture there, but he would kill anybody that hurt a kid. He would kill them on the spot. His own soldiers, if they hurt a kid, he would challenge them to a fight and kill them. like, like I think this is, yeah, this is no joke. So, but Coco talks about, I think I would invite anybody, if you want to if you do want to go down this rabbit hole, she's a good place to start, because she gets into how much this costs, all the things that are happening. Like, for example, underneath the Las Vegas Strip, there are tunnels. There are actually tunnels in underneath most large cities, but the Las Vegas Strip is filled with kids and filled with people that are and she tells stories of them going down there and finding kids and bringing them out. So she's a lawyer now, and she is constantly fighting for these kids. But this is something, I mean, I remember right before I left Utah that we found out that there was a bishop and a bunch of other people that were doing this. Like, this is something that is not talked about, but it is something that is, um, man,
Well, and I think,
yeah, go ahead.
the way you introduced it, I think, has something to do with the how much it's thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Is people think it's over. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, we won the fight against slavery a long, long time ago. And the reality is, no, no, we haven't. Like, slavery now has different names. Like, it
right.
changed its label so that it could continue to thrive under a different label. I mean, it's like, think of any virus.
Yeah,
The coronavirus is really, it's just an offshoot of another virus. It's COVID
right,
19. There have been 19 versions of this virus.
right.
It was eradicated, and but it's found some way to come
So,
back stronger. And so that's what we're talking about. And not to
right.
scare the shit out of people, but like, maybe maybe a little
Yeah,
bit, like,
maybe a little bit.
there's some reality here that I think all of us have a responsibility to be aware of. And so you talk about going down a rabbit hole
Yeah,
by looking at a survivor story. Personally, I think it's a responsibility of humanity to be aware of each other's stories.
yeah.
And again, be sensitive to yourself, because if you're in jeopardy of, like,
Maybe we can even I'll message her on Instagram
if she'd be
and
willing to,
see if
holy
she wants to
cow.
come on the podcast. See if we can get her on here next week.
That would, I it scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, it's painful. Like, it's,
Yeah.
thinking about these things, it's painful. I recently read a book, by another person that I'd love to have on the podcast, and I mentioned him a little earlier,
Yeah, Bob
Bob.
Goff.
He talked about, because he's a big, a consul in Uganda, so
Yeah.
he's a lawyer as well. And he went over, and there was a case he got involved in where there was a witch doctor who found a 10-year-old boy on the streets and basically castrated him to use
Jeez.
his parts for some spiritual, ritual,
Yeah.
and left him for dead.
Yeah.
And apparently this is like, it was a widespread thing in
Yeah.
Uganda, just something that happened. And
Yeah.
it was so widespread, and the community was so afraid of these witch doctors that they never tried them. Even though
Yeah.
everyone knew these things were going on, they never were brought to trial.
Right.
And Bob was actually he was the person who brought that man to trial because the boy lived
Yeah.
and was able to identify the witch doctor who did it. And so they brought him to trial and convicted him. He was the first witch doctor ever brought to trial in Uganda.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think people think like, oh, the stuff you're talking about, it happens other places, right? And that's, I
Yeah.
think that's the narrative that we're comfortable with.
Right.
We shouldn't be like,
Yeah.
I don't think we should be comfortable with that because it's really messed up. The reality is this is stuff that goes on right under our noses because we're not willing to talk about it. We just
Right.
say, oh, that stuff's, it's either overseas, it's somewhere else, it's not going to impact my kid.
Right. It's in
Or,
Thailand. It's
you
in
know,
it's
it,
in
it, it's
Eastern Europe, right?
yeah,
It's
or it
not
did
happening
exist. It
here.
did
Yeah.
exist in our country, but in the 1800s, and we got rid of that a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like there are different forms of this. And I would even, maybe real quick, just kind of there's other forms that slavery has taken.
Yeah.
Mass incarceration.
Right.
If you want to go down a rabbit hole that I've gone down that's really pissed me off,
Yeah.
it's mass incarceration. There are races that have just spent generations locked
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
for, I'll just say it, stupid shit.
Yeah.
There have been individuals who have spent their lives in prison because of weed, for
Yeah.
instance. And
Yeah.
anyway, so
Yeah.
like, not to change the subject, but like, slavery happens today. It
Yep.
happens in many forms, and the form we're talking, it's just, yeah. And I get why we want to shy away from it, because even
Right.
talking about it now, I just like, I don't want to fully connect to it,
Yeah.
which is interesting because that's what you and I are all about. We're all like connect or die.
Yeah.
Um, it's scary too,
Yeah.
but
This is well, and so it's yeah.
yeah,
Yes, and the thing that I think is the most difficult to comprehend is that some of the people that are committing these crimes, we don't know exactly who they are, but they might be people that you look up to.
right.
That's
They could
what's
could be people that are, very, very powerful, very,
yeah.
very powerful.
In fact, there's a good chance that is. I mean, I actually just saw New York Post just did a post on this. Um, First of all, one thing that um, child trafficker arrests though have gone up exponentially over the last 3 years. These pedophile rings are getting taken down systematically, one at a time, and um, which gives me hope, a lot of hope. So just so you know, in the last 3 years, so 3 years ago, it was the first year was something like 3,000, then it's 5,000. Then so far in Trump's third year, he's arrested over 30,000. Him and obviously the task force is doing the arrest, but over 30,000 of these criminals have been going away, which I think, well, and they just passed something that it's, if you have been caught in child trafficking like this, sex trafficking, the government owns all your assets. They take all of the assets if you're convicted in it, which I think is just fine.
Sure.
Like, even like the libertarian side of me is like, dude, if you cross
Go.
that line, you own nothing,
I mean, I
and
would
we
say,
throw
I
you
would
in a
say,
hole and we
I
throw
would,
away the key.
I would say, give it to the victims. I mean, that would be my,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
whatever. Like,
No, I agree with that.
I was
Um,
gonna say real quick though, because we
mhm.
were talking about how, be aware of
Yeah.
maybe, and not obviously, don't like just assume that everyone's. I don't think that's what we're talking.
No, no.
But the reality is you look back in the United States history, and you look at slavery, and
Yeah,
the most powerful people of the day were also a lot of the wealthiest people,
yeah,
and a lot of wealth was gained through slavery. It was, and that was one of the big, obviously, economic drivers of the
yeah,
Civil War. It was like, if we do this, this is our economy.
yeah,
So, we talk about money and how it has the potential to corrupt people, and, you got to beware of maybe influential people. The reality is, this is going on. We know that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's past the point of being able to say, "Oh, this is happening somewhere else." No, it's happening here. We know that
Yeah.
it's happening, and we know that massive amounts of money are being exchanged.
Trillions.
So people
Trillions
with
of dollars.
yeah, people with massive amounts of money are at the heart of this.
Yeah.
Who has massive amounts of money? And I know that that's, we're not going on a witch hunt here,
Right.
but kind of, maybe to a certain degree. I'm not saying like everyone who last year filed a tax return, and if they have over $100 million, we automatically assume that they're part of a pedophile. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But I'm saying that money is going to be at the heart of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why a lot of these gangs are using the gangs are using this. The crazy part is the drug trafficking and the human sex trafficking, they go hand in hand, because they drug these kids. They malnutrition them. This is probably the darkest part, and Coco goes into this, but they malnutrition these kids to keep them from going through puberty. Because the longer they go without going through puberty, then the more money that person can make off of them.
The more innocent
Um,
and pure.
yeah, the more in it. Yeah, and oh, sorry, this is
Yeah, no,
just.
it's
But and they like Coco talks about, she says she was, it was her mother that was the one that was her handler, that was setting all this stuff up. And she says, she's like, look, it wasn't who you thought it would be that was doing this stuff to me. She's like, I would have it. She's like, she talks about that she would be raped up to upwards of 50 times a day. Um, and she's like, I would go like a few weeks without anything, but I knew that it was coming. I knew that I was going to have to go through that again. And so, and the only reason that she got out was because she had watched Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and she realized that she was a victim of this, that it wasn't normal. And then they killed her sister when she was 15, and she got out. Then she ran, and never went back. And thank God for that. I just think,
well, I think that's, I
yeah,
mean, what you're describing to me, it illustrates the truth that we were talking about earlier, that this is, it's just pure evil.
yeah.
Any crime that has to do with a child is universally recognized as just
Hey, honey,
pure.
dude,
No, this is
just a second.
it's perfect, dude. This is perfect on topic.
Hey, okay, all right. Will you lock the door for me? Thanks.
We
Okay,
need a screwdriver.
okay. Hold on, just a second. Let me grab.
Oh,
Let me
you're
grab
good,
my
man.
screwdriver.
You're good. But oh
There,
man,
we bought him this little. I don't know if you remember the elephant nose thing that like shoots out all the little. It's like
oh,
an elephant nose that you put
the
all these
butterflies.
butterflies in. Yeah,
Oh man, that was when I was a kid.
yeah. So we found it and we had bought it, but anyway,
They need a
they get to
screwdriver for
play
the
with it.
batteries.
Yep, to put the batteries in. So
Gotcha. But that's, I mean, um, you, oh, man, you look into, oh gosh, you look into a child's eyes, and they're so trusting. They're so trusting, just naturally. And anyone who would take advantage of that for their own personal power and gain is, it's fundamentally fucked up.
yeah,
And there are varying degrees of that, obviously, but what we're talking about is so extreme that I feel like there is no other label that you could possibly put under it that than evil. I mean, it's
yeah,
just It's pure evil, because you are taking a blank, and everyone has different,
Right.
philosophy on what,
Right.
childhood is like. But I'll just say, you're taking an almost blank slate who has no idea what life looks like.
Yep.
No idea other than what you show
Well,
them.
some of
And
these kids are born into it. Like they're bred into it.
similar to, slavery, right? That
It's the
was
same
the
thing.
reality.
Yep.
They don't know anything different. And so you talk about this woman's story and how it took her to watch a show to realize that that's not what every kid was experiencing.
Yep.
That's why it's so messed up. That's what that it is at its heart. It is, um, you are captivating an innocent creature,
Yeah.
and that is just terrible. Um, when you think about it from a psychological standpoint, in terms of what the individual, um, the villain, or the, I don't know what you would call him,
Yeah.
the piece of shit, like
Perpetrator.
that's
Yeah.
what
The
I'm gonna call him,
perpetrator
the
of this.
fucking
Yeah.
POS. Like,
Yeah.
when you think about it from their standpoint, um, and this is just my personal theory,
Yeah.
like, and we were talking about this a little earlier. I feel like you reach a certain point where you have so much money, you've amassed so much wealth, so much influence, that you can literally, whatever comes to your brain that you want, you snap your finger, it's there.
Yeah.
I think that's why I think that's why people have adopted that belief that money corrupts, is because
Right.
there's probably a God complex that comes from that. You're just like,
Right.
I want a new car, boom. I want this, like, I want a woman, boom. Like, I want this.
Yeah.
At some point, it
Look at Harvey
becomes,
Weinstein. That's an open. He was apparently he was surprised that these women were mad at him.
he thought he was God's gift to the world.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they want to have sex with me because I'm
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Um,
And I guess he fulfilled on whatever he would promise them, he would do it. And so people just dealt with it.
yeah, and I feel like from the human psyche point, I imagine you reach this level where it's no longer about the thing that you get.
Yeah.
It's about how much power you have behind the things you can get.
Right.
And if history has taught us anything, it's that the lust for power is insatiable.
Yeah.
It's insatiable. There is nothing that you can get that will satisfy your desire for more power. You will want more, and you will want more, and you will want more, and you will
Yeah.
want more, to the
It's
point
the
that
opposite of love, right?
you
Because
push.
love doesn't need anything.
Yeah,
Power and but the like that lust for power, it is insatiable. It's
yeah,
unstoppable. It never has an end. It's a hole that is deep forever. And no matter how much shit you throw in there, no matter how many planes, no matter how much, like, you can't fill it.
right.
You can't fill it. And then it comes down to the seeking for the next thrill, the next thing.
And pushing, and I feel like the
Yep.
boundary gets pushed. The
Yep.
boundary gets pushed. I think of R. Kelly. Like, R.
Yeah.
Kelly's, you start pissing on women, and the
Yep.
next thing you know, you're basically, sex slaving.
Yeah.
You're turning women into sex slaves, because and it's so messed up that, like, the natural man can get to these points, but people at those levels, they get sexual gratification out of making another person feel powerless.
Yeah.
It makes them feel more powerful. you know One of the rabbit holes I went down recently that I had to stop because it was causing me sleepless nights, I
Yeah.
started watching this Netflix show called Mindhunter.
Yeah.
And it was about the FBI basically cataloging the minds of serial killers. They would go and they would interview them in prison. Like, why did you do it? What was the reason? What was the
Yeah.
motive? And it was just so it was so dark, and it just got darker as it went on. And for me, I eventually just had to stop watching it because I'm like, I can't handle this right now.
Yeah. Especially if you're watching it right before you go to sleep.
Right.
I
Yeah. It's
can't watch
just,
any shows and I have to shut it off an hour before I go to sleep. No
well,
matter
and
what
they,
the show is, even if it's a good show, I can't do it.
the part that freaked me out the most, I think, is when they interview Charles Manson and they bring him into the room, and I'm like, holy shit, he kind of looks like me. Like, he's got this big burly beard, and I'm like, that's not my favorite. So
Yeah.
that one really messed with me. But the one of the things I gleaned from it just about the mind of a serial killer is that's what it's about. That's
Yeah.
what they're wanting. At some point in their life, they were made to feel powerless. Someone in their life, and unfortunately, usually their parents,
Yeah.
made them feel powerless. And so their only goal in life was to have power over people. And they
Yeah.
took it to the extreme, the very most extreme of sexually abusing and then ultimately taking life. And it's, I think that mindset would have to be at the heart of what we're talking about. It would just
Yeah.
have to be like,
Yeah.
we're talking about a serial killer mindset that would take children and put them through this for their own personal gain.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's crazy is just the amount of, I don't know. So I guess I'll just pull up some quotes by some people. You can, once again, you can do your own research. You can look into this yourself. Uh, and like Elijah Wood talks about this. He says that, let's see here, I'll pull up one. Let's see here. Wood is quoted as saying that actors are regularly preyed upon by vipers in Hollywood. Um, Wood told the Times he was never went to parties where the kind of thing was going on because his mother Deborah protected him from interacting with those people. But he did note, I've been led down dark paths to realize that these things are probably still happening. And he says, I can't tell you the number one problem, and I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood, it was and is and always will be pedophilia. The biggest problem, that's the biggest problem for the children in this industry. It's a big secret. Okay, so that's Elijah Wood, the guy who played that he said that. So now let's look up what Mel Gibson
Not
said.
not Frodo. Not
Yep.
Frodo. You
Yeah.
fuck with Frodo, you've gone too far. Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Okay. Um, and then Mel Gibson. He. What's interesting is he kind of got ousted. He actually got ousted shortly after saying some of this stuff, which is interesting. That's when all of a sudden nobody would work with him. That phone call got put up, and he kind of
Well,
got kicked out of Hollywood.
he's
Uh,
basically just become a running joke.
yeah, yeah. But the crazy thing is he's still making, like, if you've seen what was that movie he made recently? Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh
It's
yeah,
an amazing movie,
one of the best war
and
movies out there.
it's so good.
Well,
Uh,
you go back to, I mean, one of his most well known, obviously, Passion of the Christ. I mean, if you've ever
yeah,
watched that, it's hard to watch. It's
yeah, yeah. Yeah. He's no matter what you think of him, like as a person, like he has made some amazing movies. Braveheart comes to mind.
he's
Some of
brave.
my
He's
favorite.
Braveheart. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
Braveheart.
yeah,
Freedom. Like, come on.
yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to find the quotes here.
And I like what you said, Dave. You're just like, do it this what you will. Like, these
Yeah,
people are saying these things. We're not saying, like, I don't know. I mean, I think, based on what I understand about power, about money, about what's going on,
yeah,
the people with the most power in Hollywood are probably connected to this stuff.
Yep.
And obviously Harvey Weinstein, like it's these are just facts at this point. Like, and so you can draw the conclusions that you will from these facts.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah.
Man, for some reason I'm having trouble finding it. I found this yesterday and now it's not coming up. Give me a minute.
We're not meant to quote Mel Gibson today.
No, I'm gonna find it.
I'm just kidding.
I will find it. That's for sure. Okay, let's see here. Weird. I've had to go to a different site to find this. This is so weird. That I literally found this yesterday. So I'll just read this really quick. This is a short one, but he said Hollywood studios are drenched in the blood of innocent children. Baby blood is so popular in Hollywood, it basically operates as its own currency. And so if you ever hear of something called adrenochrome, adrenochrome is and there are multiple. I'll find another one by Mark Zuckerberg talking about taking adrenochrome. It's made by the adrenaline released from I think it's the pineal gland when a child is terrified. And they take this out and make a drug out of it. And they get high off of it. And let's see here.
I feel like that's a metaphor for this entire discussion.
Yeah. Okay, here's one. It's weird. I've had to find the images of this. That's where I'm finding the quotes now. But it said, Hollywood is an institutionalized pedophile ring. It is a den of parasites who feast upon the blood of children. Every studio in Hollywood is bought and paid for by the blood of innocent children. He also said Hollywood studios, are Johnson innocent blood, the blood of innocent children. Baby blood is so popular in Hollywood that it basically operates as its own currency. And he talked openly about this stuff. And as soon as he talked openly about it, he said, the only reason I'm talking about this now is because those that I personally witnessed do this stuff and who threatened the life of me and my family have died. So I can talk about it now. You can find quotes by Brad Pitt talks about this. Keanu Reeves is constantly reposting stuff on Twitter about this. They're talking about it, and what's crazy is there's some actors, I can't remember his name now. I just barely looked him up, but one guy was doing every person that's began hey, I'm gonna do a movie about this, I'm gonna do a documentary, ends up killing themselves. And I'm not saying maybe it's because they go down a dark path, maybe it messes them up, I don't know. But all I know is that every single time someone tries to bring this stuff up, they throw themselves off a bridge. They end up dying somehow. It's like the Clintons. You're gonna attack the Clintons, and all of a sudden you commit suicide. It's crazy. And this is something that is happening, and it's happening on a that it's happening basically, and it's.
I was gonna bring up something that I think it's relevant to talk about.
Yeah.
Don't you think that some of the reason that people are afraid to talk about stuff like this is because, to a certain degree, if you come out and say that you're giving any of these things weight, I mean, even if you're listening to Mel Gibson or you're talking about the Clintons, I feel like there is a massive a group of people who will just label you conspiracy theorist.
Right.
Everything you have to say is bullshit. There's nothing to it. You're taking all ththese facts and you're using them to make conclusions that just aren't there.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. Don't you think that that allows these things to kind of, and I'm not saying that all of these conspiracy theories have weight or that every conspiracy theory does. But that would be a technique.
Yep.
For letting this stuff continue in the darkness to just
Yeah.
grow.
So
And
so
and I think
if you want, yeah, yeah.
for me, it's like, okay, you have your conspiracy theory about how people landed on the moon. Like, I don't give a
Right.
who cares?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
that's peanuts to me.
Right.
But now we're talking about kids.
Right.
We're talking about kids. And so even though I'm not necessarily going to, like, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, because like even this discussion is kind
Yeah.
of like getting to the point where it's too much for me. But like, this is a topic that I just feel needs awareness. Like,
Yeah.
there needs to be a heightened awareness, because if there's truth to it, and I think that's important,
Yeah,
if there's truth to
if
it,
there's truth to it, for sure.
we have to get to the heart of it. We
Yeah.
have to. And the only way we're going to is if it's brought to light. And
Yep.
the only way it'll be brought to light is if we kind of talk about it a little bit. And so yeah, if that woman is willing to come and talk, like, to
Let's
not,
message
and
her. We'll
just
find
for the
out. Yeah.
just for the purpose of educating me, like, at this point,
Yeah.
like, that's what I would love, just to hear her stories and hear how prevalent this is, what she's seen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, anyway, like,
Yeah.
I think because I would hate, Dave, I would hate, and anyone who jumps at you and says you're a conspiracy theorist and tries to, I will, like,
Yeah.
that will incite some rage in me that I will have to do some intense cold water therapy to suppress.
Yeah.
Because I know your heart, dude. I know your heart, and I know where it's at. And you're about protecting innocent people. And so, like, I know that, like, some of these things, and when you told me you were going down this rabbit hole, I kind of had this instinct to be like, dude, be careful, because I know
Yeah.
you. I know your heart. And there is so much misinformation, and so many people on the internet trying to sway people certain ways. And so,
Right.
um, I would say be careful. But dude, I know your heart, and I know you connect to the things that are important to you. And when anyone starts talking about hurting kids, like, that's where you're gonna go.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and
Anyway, I don't
it's
know why. I don't know if any of that
yeah.
makes sense or why I
No, it
felt
did. It
phrase
did.
that that way. But
No, for sure, and I appreciate that. I just think you can't be, once again, maybe it's a lie, maybe it's not real. But having gone and listened to the stories of the people who have survived this, I just
it's happening
there's some
it's
it's
happening
happening. Yeah,
in
it's
one form
happening.
or another.
It's happening. And if you look up just adrenochrome and you see people talk about it, like that stuff is happening right now. And then what's weird is, and you don't have to believe in like a Satan, you don't have to believe in that stuff, but there are people that do believe in it. And this is a big part of that religious practice. And what's weird is once you start seeing people, how much they which one was it? Anyway, there's multiple. You can look it up. You can look up how many artists and how many actors thank Satan and talk about this stuff and thank them in their Golden Globe awards. Like, it is happening, and whether it's real or not, I don't really care. I don't know if there's really a Satan. Like, I don't know, but these people do believe that he's real, and they're doing things a lot of the time based on that. I mean, Christian Bale, dude, I freaking love his performances, but in Golden Globes, he stood up and said, like, "Oh, I thank Satan for pushing me to do this role." And I'm like, that's a weird thing to say, man. Like, maybe it was a joke, right? Could have been a joke because everyone's thanking God when they get up, right? But it is weird, and it's a strange thing to see over and over again. So, and I just think that becoming aware of this and then doing what you can to help. There's operations like Operation Underground Railroad. They do a lot of stuff to help these kids. There are, you can look up CERT Ministries. CERT Ministries, I know Rudy really well. He's the main minister there. They're doing a ton to help these kids, like, and to find them and bring them home.
Rudy would be a fascinating I think I
Yeah,
mentioned that to you, but I mean, if he'd ever be willing to come and
yeah.
share his experiences, I think that'd be fascinating.
I know he's under the gun a lot. it's hard for me to even, especially right now. I know that
Right.
he is running multiple operations every week. So, and just saving these kids. I mean, I know that this was back in, I think it was in January. They saved 22 kids in Vegas. 22 kids that were getting pulled into a sex trafficking ring. So this is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. This is something that is extremely uncomfortable even for me to even like think and to begin to realize like what the reason what puts fire in me is I see my wonderful 2 little girls and I see them growing up and I see them becoming who it is that they were born to be. And I think about other kids that are in this hellhole. And I don't care what people label me as. I really don't give a fuck. I don't care what other people think about me. But I will stake everything on helping those kids. And I'm learning how to do it, and I'm starting to reach out to people and trying to find ways for me to help, because this is something that we cannot continue to be quiet about. There are real people hurting, and uh and it's like they are taking the sanctity of innocence from children, and this is something that is happening on a wide scale, on a large scale. And uh you
Well,
know
I mean, you say on a large scale, it's like at what scale of this is too much?
yeah,
The
what is
reality
that? If
is,
one
if
person
it's
was
if
doing
it's
it.
one person, it's too much. Like this is, and sorry to cut you off, dude, but like
No, please.
one of the things that we started this conversation talking about the coronavirus and how it's,
Right.
to me, and I feel like to anyone who looks for it, you just see this spirit of humanity
Yeah.
just shining through. And I actually like I'm quoting a song called "The Spirit of Man" by Chris de Burgh.
Yeah.
Um, but it talks about when it's darkest, the spirit of man shines again. We've seen it during 9/11. We're seeing it now.
Yeah.
It's we're better than this.
Yeah.
We're better than this. And the only way that we can be better is for people to stop saying, well, that's someone else's problem. It's
Yeah.
someone else's problem.
That's not
It's someone
real.
else's
That's not
problem.
real.
It's
Yeah.
not happening. It doesn't affect my kids. And I feel like the coronavirus is doing that. It's
Yeah.
helping people be like, okay, is this affecting my loved ones? Like I've had to just shut down social media because I'm so tired of seeing people say, does anyone even know anyone who has coronavirus? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Natalie and I do.
everyone
Natalie
who's
and I do.
died, like, are you
Yeah.
serious? Like,
Yeah.
we've become so distrusting of information, and I think that there's call for some of that, but people are dying. And so I've seen so many people, like you said, take that burden of responsibility onto themselves,
Yeah.
even though they're personally maybe not affected by it, and they're thinking about other people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take that, because that's the spirit of humanity. That's how we thrive, is when there's unity, when we work together. um and it's a very Jesus thing to say. I don't intend it that, I mean, I do intend it that way, because
Yeah.
that's, but long story short, there, like you said, Dave, there are human beings out there suffering, and it is our responsibility. It is, as humanity, it is our responsibility to do what we can,
Yep.
whatever we can, to ease the suffering of humanity. And that's the part that gives me hope, because even if darkness is covering the light, the sun is still behind that darkness.
Yep.
There is still light, and it's
And
gonna
just
have its day.
and just
It's
like with the
gonna have its
lunar
day.
yeah, just like with the lunar eclipse, the moon will pass by and the sun will
The
be
light's
bright.
gonna shine through. And
Yep.
I would my I guess I don't know, my invitation to everyone is, connect to that light right now. Even as we're talking about this dark, dark, dark stuff, connect to the light that is the humanity inside of you that would say, what can I do? What can I do? Can I post about this maybe today? But like, stop posting about we don't care anymore about your quarantine. Like,
Yeah.
it's old news. Like, post about something that matters.
Yeah.
Post about something, whatever you can do. Whatever you can do. Donate to something. Donate $5 to something. And I guess I'm speaking to myself too, because now I'm asking, like, what can I actually do? And I don't know, but I think it's something worth thinking about. It's something
Yeah.
worth considering. And if every person were to ask that question, we could begin to do something that
Yeah.
matters. We could begin to get more kids out of this, and we could change people's lives. Um, anyway, I'll get off my high horse now.
No, I think it's totally right, man, and I think that's a good way to end this. We left a couple of breadcrumbs. We didn't get into I got into a little bit of the meat of it, but this if you want to go look this stuff up, you can begin, Underground Railroads, great place. There's, even if you're listening to this and you know somebody, or heaven forbid somebody who is in this right now, there's like the national child uh sex trafficking hotline. That's what it is. You can text, you can call that number. I can even look it up right now, so we can give it to you right now.
The internet, such a wonderful thing.
Yep. Okay.
By the way, Dave, this was not the discussion I was thinking we were going to have today.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here's the number for anyone who's listening: 1-888-373-7888. You can call that number and you can talk to somebody right now. They have English, Spanish, over 200 or more languages. You can go to humantraffickinghotline.org, or you can text 2333-7333. So that's 233733. Just text help or info, and someone will be there to talk to you immediately.
Yeah, and I would just say, if you do see something or something, stop thinking someone else will do it.
Yep.
Stop thinking someone else will take care of it. You're the person. Like, you be the person. Don't put yourself in danger. Be smart, but be the person.
Yeah, I agree. And on that note, I hope you guys know that there is light, and that good will triumph over evil. I know that this is the darkest, one of the darkest and lightest times in my memory, in the life of my memory, um, and we can don't close off. Don't say this isn't real immediately. Like, have an open mind, do your own research. Uh, but as you look into this, also understand that there are things that you can do to help. Um, and this is something that we as humanity can end. And we don't have a huge audience. We don't have, maybe, I don't know, we have people who are listening to this, but if you are listening to this, what I would invite you to do is just like what Logan said, like, let's find ways that we can help. And I even if it's just reposting this podcast, I know that we use some strong language, which can be offensive to people, but I think that it's the language that is the most honest for us to use in some of these situations, frankly. So, yeah, this, yeah. Anyway, I don't have anything else to say, but just always connect or die.
Right. Always. We
Okay.
love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.